Hi, and welcome to Accessibility with Meg. This is Meg. Today's video is more like a podcast, and I'm just going to talk about something, just a topic, and it's going to be extempore. I have not prepared anything. I'm just going to speak about it, and I hope you enjoy it. The topic I'm thinking about talking is the idea of shift left. Okay. So today in accessibility and just around everywhere around the digital world, we hear this concept of shift left, right? So how does it pertain to accessibility? What does it mean when we say that the trend today is to shift left with accessibility? So like you see on the screen, there are three players. And in the systems development life cycle, what we call SDLC, there are three major players pertaining to accessibility. Okay? And those are the design team, the development team, and the QA team, which includes accessibility testers. Now, when we say we're going to shift left, all we're saying is that at every stage of the SDLC and within every team of a project, especially these three main players, accessibility needs to start with the design team, passed on to the development team, and finally the QA team to test it. When accessibility is not incorporated as such, then we see that there are issues towards the end. A lot of issues remain unresolved, they're not addressed, and then there is this rush to solve these issues way after, like at development or QA stages. And what happens is it becomes very expensive, one, and sometimes it's not possible to go back and change the entire layout and entire design. So when we talk about shift left, this is all we mean, meaning that we move to the design where we start with accessibility. So starting early with accessibility is what is required. So what and how and where within the system would we first incorporate accessibility? I think the best place would be within design systems, right where you have your components, you have your design elements, just your company brand, just about all the design aspects, the entire design system that you have that is being used by the company. That's where we can start adding in accessibility. And once it's in there and those components are then further used, we know that accessibility is baked right within it, right? So that's a good thing. If that is not an option, if you don't have the option of a design system per se, then one-on-one, having a accessibility SME on board, and making sure that the design team works one-on-one, interacting with them and incorporating all the aspects of accessibility right within their compositions is important. Now, one aspect of accessibility is what we actually see, the look and feel, right? So your typography needs to be readable. You need to have fonts which are essentially sans serif fonts, spaced out correctly. The size of your fonts need to be correct. The color contrast of your text needs to be correct. The layout of your page needs to be correct. Just all your elements need to be displayed with proper spacing and within within a proper layout, right? That's important when you look at a design. And there are many more such visual requirements for design. But that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of design would be to make sure that the interaction and the experience that you pass on to people with disabilities or accessibility needs, whether those accessibility needs are temporary or permanent, just the experience that you pass on has to be equivalent to the experience that is that a person without the disability is getting, right? So making sure that the interaction is the same, the information passed to, say, a screen reader is the same, is the correct information. People are not left hanging out of context within your websites. They are good for people with cognitive needs. So your websites are not hard to understand and comprehend. They're not difficult to navigate through. They're not difficult to operate through. Making sure of these things, not just how it looks, but the experience behind it, I think is a very important part of accessibility. No website can be 100% accessible, but trying to reach and achieve at least 90% accessible websites should be a target, and it is achievable. People do manage to do that, or just work with the standards, work with the WCAG standards, work with the laws like AODA, ACA, we have AMA. All of these have stipulated standards that we need to meet, and just work with those to make sure that your websites are as accessible as possible. So design has a responsibility. The design team has this responsibility of being able to create compositions which are accessible, but also to pass on the information that the development team requires to code an accessible composition, right? So you can give them a layout, you can give them a design comp, but if you don't annotate that design comp correctly for accessibility needs, then there is no point because they wouldn't know, or they may make mistakes even if they know what to put in. Sometimes you can make mistakes because there's no clarity. So that handing over is very crucial. When we are trying to, when we say we are shifting left and we're starting with the roots and then moving forward and creating this accessible, beautiful website, we need to make sure that when things are passed on or handed over, they are done correctly. So another important thing about accessibility is to clearly mark out, right, all the accessible requirements and like simple things like your headings hierarchy. Make it clear on your comp. Say this is your head H1, H2, H3, because as a designer, you would have known the business requirements more closely than a developer, right? You would have worked one-on-one with the BAs. You would have worked one-on-one with the stakeholders, and you know the idea, the concept really well as to what needs are to be met. So when you hand it over to the developers, we can't expect them to magically know what they're supposed to be doing with it, right? So we need to annotate. We need to put into our design comps, give them a style guide, give them an accessibility guide, if you will, because that's the best way. You pass on with your design comps an accessibility guide. It doesn't have to be very big. It can be one page wherein you write the requirements down for each of the elements within that design comp. And that's a very simple way to pass the parcel and to make sure that accessibility needs are met. Now, the same thing needs to be passed on to QA as well when they're doing testing to make sure that QA is aware of all the accessibility things that have been taken care of. Now, QA for accessibility does have the extra job of finding things which may have got missed in these two phases of design and development. Having an accessibility specialist at all stages really helps because you can eliminate a lot of issues by the time it reaches QA, right? So accessibility is a process. We can't just, in the end try to squeeze in accessibility after the fact, right? You can't do that because once you try to do that, you will have to break, realign. It's like you created a pot. Now you forgot that, within the pot there was some clay that needed to be added. And I mean, it's a silly example, but it is an example which will tell you that if you want to now add that, you will have to break the pot and restart again. Maybe start with new clay, you never know, right? So it's very difficult to put in things, or after a pot is baked, you realize that there needs to be a pattern with holes in it. And you didn't do that when it was the clay was in that leather form, where you could easily have put those holes in, right? So the process can happen, but it's riskier. It's also time consuming. It's expensive when it's done at a later stage. So having this in place, this is all shifting left means. Just incorporating accessibility needs right in the start, right in the beginning, and handing it over to the next player in a package that they can use and they can do a good job with it, and so forth, right? So that's the concept of shift left. Thank you. If you like the content, please like, share, subscribe, and that will help me. Thank you so much.